How old are Kirk and Spock in Star Trek: Strange New Worlds Season 3? When Star Trek: Strange New Worlds premiered, it offered fans a refreshing return to episodic storytelling, dazzling visual design, and a deeply character-driven approach to the Star Trek mythos. Among its most fascinating elements has been the inclusion of legacy characters like Spock and James T. Kirk, whose presence ties the prequel series directly to the original series TOS. With Strange New Worlds Season 3 set roughly 6 years before the start of TOS, many fans have been asking one timeline-related question: just how old are Kirk and Spock at this point in their Starfleet careers? The answer isn't entirely straightforward. Star Trek canon is filled with occasional contradictions and retcons, but there's enough detail in official sources, episodes, and creator interviews to sketch a clear timeline. Examining birth dates, key career milestones, and known canon events, we can estimate the exact ages of Kirk and Spock in Strange New Worlds Season 3. More importantly, understanding their ages and context helps explain their personalities, relationships, and evolving roles in the franchise. Establishing the timeline. When is Strange New Worlds Season 3? The Strange New Worlds timeline places it firmly in the 2250s, shortly after the events of Star Trek: Discovery Season 2. Captain Christopher Pike commands the USS Enterprise, and the series builds toward the ship eventually passing to Captain James T. Kirk in the mid-2260s. Strange New Worlds Season 1 begins in 2259. Season 2 covers 2259 into early 2260. Season 3 therefore takes place in 2260. This is 6 years before TOS officially begins in 2266 with Where No Man Has Gone Before. That means the versions of Kirk and Spock we see here are noticeably younger and less seasoned than their iconic portrayals in TOS. James T. Kirk's age in Strange New Worlds Season 3. James Tiberius Kirk's canonical birth year is 2233, established in Star Trek 2009 and supported by various tie-in materials. In 2260, during Strange New Worlds Season 3, Kirk would be 27 years old. At 27, Kirk is not yet the legendary captain of the Enterprise, but a promising young officer rapidly ascending through Starfleet's ranks. By this time, he's already distinguished himself as a bold leader, a strategic thinker, and a man unafraid to bend the rules for the greater good. Kirk's career at this stage. Kirk serves aboard the USS Farragut as a lieutenant, though Strange New Worlds explores alternate encounters where he temporarily crosses paths with Pike's Enterprise. He's still several years away from the ill-fated Farragut mission where a deadly encounter with a cloud creature leaves deep scars on his psyche, an event canonically dated to 2257, though some retellings shift it later. Kirk's leadership instincts are visible, but he's still raw, learning diplomacy, and occasionally letting his brashness cloud his judgment. In Strange New Worlds, Paul Wesley's portrayal of Kirk highlights this younger, more experimental side of the character. At 27, he's a man straddling the line between youthful daring and the disciplined maturity he'll need to command a starship. Spock's age in Strange New Worlds Season 3. Spock's canonical birth year is 2230, established in TOS-era materials and later confirmed in Star Trek: Discovery. In 2260, during Strange New Worlds Season 3, Spock is 30 years old. At 30, Spock is already serving as science officer aboard the Enterprise under Captain Pike, honing the logical precision and scientific brilliance that will define him. But unlike the fully composed Spock of TOS, the Strange New Worlds version is still visibly navigating the tension between his human and Vulcan sides. Spock's personal struggles at this stage. He is wrestling with his Vulcan heritage and human emotions, often more openly than in later years. His romance with Nurse Christine Chapel represents a formative but ultimately tragic chapter in his personal life, one that helps explain the emotional walls he later constructs in TOS. His mentorship under Pike plays a critical role in shaping the officer he will become under Kirk's command. At 30, Spock is intellectually formidable but emotionally volatile, a sharp contrast to the calm, stoic Vulcan seen later. This period of growth is essential to his eventual balance between logic and humanity. The age gap between Kirk and Spock. One of the most intriguing elements of the Strange New Worlds timeline is the relatively small age difference between Kirk and Spock. With only 3 years separating them, both men are effectively contemporaries, though their career trajectories differ. Kirk 27 in 2260, a rising officer, ambitious but not yet fully tested. Spock 30 in 2260, a seasoned lieutenant with deep scientific knowledge but still grappling with identity. This near-peer dynamic helps explain the unique chemistry between Kirk and Spock in TOS. Unlike the more hierarchical relationships Kirk has with other officers, his bond with Spock is rooted in mutual respect, near equal age, and shared experiences of self-discovery during their 20s. Contextualizing their ages, why it matters. At first glance, knowing the exact ages of Kirk and Spock in Strange New Worlds might seem like trivial trivia. But in Star Trek, age and timeline details carry significant narrative weight. Here's why. 1. The road to the original series. Understanding Kirk and Spock's ages highlights how much growth occurs in the 6 years leading up to TOS. By 2266, Kirk is only 33, already captain of Starfleet's flagship, while Spock is 36, his reputation for logic and loyalty firmly established. Seeing their 20s and early 30s dramatized in Strange New Worlds fills in crucial developmental gaps. 2. Character contrast. At 27, Kirk is passionate, impulsive, and slightly reckless. At 30, Spock is logical yet emotionally unsteady. These contrasts sharpen their eventual complementary dynamic, Kirk as instinct, Spock as reason. Strange New Worlds Season 3 showcases this raw, unrefined stage of their partnership. 3. The weight of responsibility. Both men are navigating the transition from promising young officers to the seasoned leaders fans know. Their ageism to the immense responsibility Starfleet places on its officers at relatively young stages of life, a recurring theme across Star Trek series. Spock versus Kirk. Who seems older in Strange New Worlds? Although Spock is technically 3 years older, Strange New Worlds often portrays him as less worldly in certain respects. His struggles with emotion, love, and identity sometimes make him seem more adolescent than Kirk, who projects confidence and authority beyond his years. This inversion of expectations adds dramatic richness. While Spock is older chronologically, Kirk's lived experiences, growing up on Earth, navigating difficult missions, and learning through risk, make him appear the more seasoned leader in some situations. By TOS, their roles settle, Spock as the elder statesman of logic, Kirk as the bold young captain. What Season 3 reveals about their future? Strange New Worlds Season 3 is perfectly positioned to deepen our understanding of Kirk and Spock's early years. At 27 and 30, they're no longer cadets or rookies, but not yet legends. The show uses their youth to explore themes of identity, leadership, and destiny in a way that resonates with longtime fans. For Kirk, Season 3 represents the phase where he learns to balance instinct with diplomacy, mistakes with lessons. For Spock, it's about embracing duality, his Vulcan logic and human vulnerability, in preparation for his iconic role as Kirk's first officer. Their ages aren't just numbers, they're narrative anchors. They remind audiences that greatness is forged not in a single moment, but across years of growth, doubt, and discovery. Conclusion: Kirk at 27, Spock at 30. In Strange New Worlds Season 3 set in